Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this narration of the web novel All is Fairy in War, taken from Reddit with the author's approval. If you're new to the story, there is a playlist listed in the description down below. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Part 6. Sir, the Ferry Admiral is currently in interrogation space, and Sir Mosen will soon begin to question him. Do you have anything specific you'd like to ask, besides what's already been planned out? Queried Vice Captain Valencia, who looked wholly unconcerned. Captain Lee sat still for a moment, mulling over the proposition. Not particularly, no. David should ask him everything of interest anyway. And if there's something else, we know we can always just go back and ask him some more. At that moment, a beep rang out from the HUD, prompting Captain Lee to look over, and upon reading it, grin. It looks like it's already begun. Her illustrious Majesty, the Empress of Fairykind, was, for the first time in a while, confronted with an unpleasant situation. Someone had come to her palace and demanded an audience with her immediately, which was quite shocking. Ideally, the perpetrator would be executed almost immediately, yet that would be quite difficult to pull off this time, as the person in question was no other than the celebrated General Hurst, a famed subjugator of Orients. Perhaps I should demote him for this slight, or maybe I should hear him out, since he's never done something this rash before. She stepped out of the chamber, donning her nightrobe. It mattered not what she wore in the presence of those beneath her, as she would be a sight to behold all the same. She approached the greeting hall of the palace, which was where the commotion was chiefly coming from, and saw the general and his entourage being prevented from coming any further in by her royal guard. Considering they let him step foot in my palace grounds without permission, perhaps I should demote them as well. She waved her hand in an intense noise completely ceased. Using Aether available to her, she froze everybody in the room, with the sole exception of the general. You better have an excellent reason for disturbing my rest, Hess, otherwise you will face dire punishment. Do you understand? The general, who was seemingly unfazed by her display of power, simply nodded in reply before bowing his head in deference. Deeming this to be acceptable, she motioned for him to proceed. Your Majesty, I've come to tell you that I believe that Admiral Harvey's fleet has been defeated. Not only that, but we are greatly underestimating the strength of the humans. The room instantly descended into an icy coldness, which struck fear into the heart of every fairy present. The Empress was incensed, and to the point that her Aether in the palace was affected as well. Beads of sweat rolled off many a forehead, and each fairy present prayed that they wouldn't be on the receiving end of any imminent outburst. You claim that Admiral Harvey's fleet has been defeated, yet we've received nary a word from him. What do you base this claim on? General Hurst made sure to look confident and measured at his response. A wrong word could have been the end of him, after all. Though our communications have been cut off, we have received a small amount of data from before the severing of communications. The information within paints a worrying picture, Your Majesty. If you'll allow it, I can present the data here. However, I must inform you that there is no audio to accompany the projection, due to the limited amount of data received. The Empress nodded in response, and so the general pulled out a projection crystal from his breast pocket. The events that you're about to see are a recreation of the battle over the humans' world, New Harvest. As this isn't the original crystal, the data isn't complete. However, it's more than enough to understand what's going on. He channeled some Aether into the crystal, which then projected the events of the battle as seen from the bridge. The Empress watched as the battle unfolded, not even blinking as she saw the thousands of fairy ships rapidly dwindle in number. She continued to watch as Admiral Harvey gave the command for the fighter craft to buy some time so that the capital ships could charge their lances and fire, admiring him for his decisiveness while simultaneously ridiculing him for his apparent weakness in dealing with these aliens. She watched on as the energy lance was somehow frozen in the middle of the void, and continued to watch, this time in terror and shock, as most of the ships were destroyed. She saw the humans move to set up a trap around the fleet, and the Admiral's attempt to inform the Empress of what had occurred, which was evidently in vain. She also watched as the flagship initiated its self-destruct and accelerated towards the human ships, before it was frozen too. Their bravery was admirable, yet their deaths were in vain. The result of having an incompetent leader, I presume. It's impressive how long Admiral Harvey has managed to hide his tactical shortcomings. Once the projection ceased, the general proceeded to put the crystal away, and once again bowed his head, clearly waiting for the Empress to address him. I should indulge him, I suppose. Is this meant to faze me, General? I'm afraid I am incapable of always understanding what your distinguished words mean, Your Highness. I wholly understand that. What I say is that you believe the fleet has been defeated, which, at this point, is undeniably true. Yet you also claim that the humans are a lot stronger than we expected, no? That their strength is the reason why we lost. Yes, that is what I've come to say, Your Majesty. The Empress approached him once more, walking until she was directly in front of him. General, I thought you'd understand by now. What you saw was no exceptional strength on their part. It's incompetence on Admiral Harvey's part. That we, the greatest civilization to ever grace the universe, could lose in a proper battle is absurd. It's clear what happened to me when presented with a foe that was ever so slightly stronger than before. The Admiral's ineptness shone through. That's the problem with being so mighty, I suppose. Bumbling fools can ride the coattails of the competent peers. General Hiers once again bowed his head before replying. It is clear that your judgment is unsurpassed, Your Majesty. If I may ask, what do you make of the human trap, where they managed to sever the Aether from the entire fleet? The general looked up towards the Empress, but once he saw the glare in her face, he quickly lowered his face once more. Come on, General, it's clear what happened. They clearly very adept at controlling a little Aether available, so it is surprising that they've managed to find a way to cut it off. Next time, just spread out the fleet so that they won't be able to pull it off twice. Our superiority should be apparent from there. Of course, Your Majesty. That is all I wish to inform you of. Next time you barge into my palace, I will have your head, no matter how urgent the news is. Do I make myself clear? General Hiers bowed before Her Majesty, before exclaiming and responding, Yes, Your Majesty. The Empress again raised her hand, which released the others from the room from their position. The royal guards immediately returned to their positions, while the general's entourage hastily bowed before the Empress, before making their way towards the door. The Empress turned around and approached one of her advisers. I want you to approach the Council of Culture with news of the Admiral Harvey's embarrassing defeat. I will have every fairy in my realm know what a failure he is, and that he is not to be emulated. Seize his lands, people, and property. His family will also have an example made of them. That should prevent any repeats of embarrassments, no? The advisers gave courteous nods before turning and leaving the chamber, undoubtedly on the way to carry out her demands. Pleased that some people had retained any semblance of competence, the Empress made her way back to her chambers. I'm going to be out of wine soon. Should definitely have someone place an order. Admiral Harvey sat motionless, trying to process what he'd just witnessed. The Empress will destroy everything of mine, friends and family included. At first, he questioned the veracity of the humans' projections, yet when they showed him moments of his private life, he had no choice but to believe them. And now, he didn't know what to believe. David Mosen sat across from him, with a consoling look on his face. There are still many fairies in your military who looked up to you, Kane. It is clear now that the Empress doesn't value you, and if you fail to act, it'll be your loved ones on the chopping block. David leaned forward with his hands crossed on the table, for the first time looking wholly serious. We have an extensive network in the Empire, many of which have links to the military-industrial sector. They, with the help of our associates, which includes the 5 Wings, have managed to plant what could be best described as etheric poison into the engines of at least 40% of the fairy fleet, most of which are technically still under your command, as the Council of Culture has yet to begin its smear campaign. Admiral Harvey looked towards David for a few seconds before beckoning him to continue. Kane, though we are at war, we try to avoid senseless slaughter as much as possible. As these are ships under your command, they will react to your Aether signature. We want you to issue the order for these ships to shut down. Once they detect the combination of your etheric signature and the order to shut down, they will shut down. I've seen what you humans are capable of. Can't you recreate my etheric signature? Why even bother with this plot? If you could implant these crafts with the etheric poison, couldn't you just destroy them? Why not save yourself the trouble? Those are all very valid questions. It's only been 20 years since we discovered Aether, And since we don't have any in our realm, we've had to make forays into yours. We've realized that the best way to weaponize Aether is discover the ways you've weaponized it, and improve it from there. Just think about what could be achieved if we combined the two.
But doesn't the order that you want me to give out to destroy the ships? How can you do research off of destroyed vessels?
David smiled once again, which still unsettled the Admiral. When we say destroy, we don't actually mean to destroy the ships. What will happen is each ship's self-destruct will activate, which will prompt the alarmed crews to evacuate. Once they do so, the etheric poison, or what we humans would call a retrofitted virus, would take effect. This will cause the ship to pilot themselves to the designated drop-off point. We get the ships we want for research, while your men stay alive. Is that not a win-win deal?
What I fail to understand is that, until now, you were unable to get your hands on some ships. You've infiltrated us for 20 years. Surely it couldn't have been that hard.
Tell you what, I'll let you know once you issue the order. Plus, if you do so, we'll immediately extract your family. David extended his hand before continuing with his speech. What do you say, Admiral Harvey? It didn't take too long for the Admiral to decide, and so he shook David's hand.
There's no way in hell I'm going to keep fighting for that Empress.
I agree. End of chapter. Just a quick shout out to the T5 peeps. Bob the Dragon, Cat Crab Lobster, Data Magnet, Dark Machine, Bezic, Try Again 95, Fudic Yol, Astrea the Dreamer, Casper Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Ithilia, Meridian 117, and Jordan Bucksmorm. Thank you very much. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed. There are links down below, both to support this channel and for the author of this fiction. Anyways, I hope you all have a fantastic one, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.